Welcome into GroomersTake on what is the last day of March. Another month has flown by. Connor McDavid, bit of a temper tantrum last night, if you want to call it that. That's what I called it. And when I first saw it from the one angle we got on Instagram, I said one game. That's one game. And then you see it a bit more, and you realize it's not that bad. He gives him a little forearm shiver as he goes up. Like, he was mad. It was a late hit. I don't even know what point in the game it took place, or if it was already 4-0. Whatever. What I do know is Coquette Niemi, the guy he hit, got him a bit earlier in the shift, and you want to get him back. I know exactly the feelings you have when you want to do something like that. And McDavid goes off a little bit. My favorite part is reading comments in Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever the heck you saw it, and just watching everyone talk about this needs to be a 5-game suspension. If that's Tom Wilson, it's 7 games. How does McDavid get a fine and Wilson gets 7 for this? It's not that bad. He got mad. It was a little forearm shiver. It's a fine. I think they fined him the most you can, which is $5,000. It makes sense. Now, if McDavid does something like this before the end of the season, then sure, throw him a game. But it's still hockey. Boys are still going to get heated up. And how dare people compare this to anything Tom Wilson has done? Stop it. McDavid needs to do that 7 more times to reach a Tom Wilson level. Come on. Next. Let's stay with hockey for these next 3 points. Toronto Maple Leafs, yada yada, Jack Campbell. The more concern now, we got to talk Leafs, right, people? The more concern to me now, is Campbell going to stay healthy? Is Anderson going to come back and be healthy the rest of the way? And is he going to perform? Because now it's come to the point where you were so happy with your goaltending. At least you were winning hockey games, and now they're not winning as much. But now you got to talk about adding a third goalie. Like, are we really at that point where we're gonna have to worry about a third goalie coming in just in case? I hate that feeling. If you have to do it by all means. But why is the rumor out there already? And of course, anybody can start a rumor. But if I hear the name James Reimer in a trade to come back to the Leafs, I don't feel great about it. But what else would you really do? And if Reimer's your third guy, that's your emergency goalie, David Ayres, then fine. So be it. And more a bit on the trade talks with the Leafs, we were talking about Nashville players not too long ago. Well, Nashville's all of a sudden in a playoff spot. So now if they want to give up those guys, the price is just going to keep going up. Realistically, I don't think there's going to be too many sellers, so without digging into it. But, I mean, you could arguably have every player from the Buffalo Sabres, who we'll talk about again in just a little bit. But, I mean, Taylor Hall, everyone seems to be talking about him. It's a perfect fit for a lot of teams. It's worth the gamble depending on the cost. He's a free agent at the end of the year. I saw a little blurb, could it be a trade and sign situation? Well, if that's the case, then I don't know how the Leafs would pull it off. And then other trade players, the only team I could think of in the markets closer to us is Columbus with David Savard, Foligno, Jenner. I really don't think there's too many more pieces that Columbus have that they would want to ship out, unless it's a goalie in Elvis or one of the other two they have there. But this trade deadline is going to be very interesting because I don't think a lot of teams want to take the gamble, not knowing what next year is going to look like. But it'll be very interesting to see. I think it could come out of nowhere. There will be some names that come out of nowhere. It's the way it goes. It's the way I like it. Trade deadline used to be feels like a holiday to a lot of us. Well, anyways, moving on. The Buffalo Sabres. My goodness. We've talked on the show here how bad Philly has been with their goaltending and their defense. And you figure Buffalo and Philly go at it. It's the third period. Buffalo has a 3-0 lead, and they still find a way to lose that game. Eric Stahl gone. I don't know if I talked about that, but I really like the pickup for Montreal there. But Buffalo, it's just being the GM's got to be the hardest job right now. in pro sports. It's not good. And another little blurb I saw on a television show that I love. It's my favorite show in the world. It's called PTI, pardon the interruption. And they talked about, is 5 overtimes for college hockey too long? And yes, that's a lot of overtimes, but I never, ever, ever want them to figure out a way to change playoff overtime. Yes, it's 5-on-5, it's not 3-on-3, but I mean, you feel it in your bones, in your blood when your team is in that game. I don't want them to change anything. I don't want you to change it to 4-on-4, 3-on-3. I want it to be 5-on-5, organic, just like the game was, and I either want to be crying at the end of it or crying at the end of it as a happy person. But no, overtime in playoffs, it stays forever and ever. GroomersTake next. NBA action. I wanted to mostly talk about the acquisitions of two big NBA teams. First, start off with the Lakers. I mean, they're a little bit banged up, but they acquired Andre Drummond. Did they sign him as a free agent? Maybe. But you look at the Lakers now up front. I mean, Drummond is a good player. It's not 4 years ago Drummond or anything like that, but it's another big man up front for the Lakers. Davis, LeBron, and Drummond. That's scary to have. And then their backcourt is their backcourt, but you know LeBron's going to be the engine that moves that anyway, moves that team when he comes back. And when he comes back, the Drummond is a huge acquisition. And I'll talk more about the Brooklyn Nets because the Brooklyn Nets are just loading up. They loaded up. LaMarcus Aldridge, another one that signed with them from the Spurs. The Spurs let them go. And then the talk is it too many All-Stars on one team? Well, it's too many All-Stars on one team 4, 5, 6 years ago kind of deal, maybe 3, but now you're having guys who are just going to be gigantic pieces, and if you can just do the job you're asked and not worry about being the stud All-Star, whatever, just do what's asked of you. Because a guy like Blake Griffin, a guy like Drummond, like Blake Griffin was interviewed the other day and he said, well, what do you mean, guys? Like, I've heard it from you, I'm not an all-star anymore. 100% true. So you just get these players in that used to be studs and now they're very still effective players. If you just do what's expected of you, don't worry about who has the ball or who's shooting it. You have plenty of people to do that for you. You're going to win a championship. Hands down, my favorite is the Nets. I'm sure I'm not the only person in that boat, but I think the Nets are going to win the championship, which means Kyrie Irving has another one, and I hate that part, but I'm sure other people are with me on that. Next. Okay, let's get into a last call. The Final Four is set. Baylor and Houston, Gonzaga and UCLA. I have not followed college basketball at all this year. Haven't even gambled on it. Feels weird watching the games with no fans, but I think I've mentioned that before. I had Michigan winning. Couldn't really tell you why. Watched them a bit, and I just thought, hey, why not Michigan this year? I probably heard somebody else say it on a show. Gonzaga's crushed me over the years. I've chosen them a lot, but really, I said before, they haven't been able to do it. Apparently, this is the year that they can do it. They might even go undefeated. They're taking on UCLA. UCLA, sure. It could be interesting, though, because remember, UCLA was part of that play-in game. And then I see Baylor. I got Baylor and Zaga in the final now, right? Makes sense to me. Roger Goodell in the NFL, they see stadiums being packed with fans in them to start the 2021 season. Love it. Love to see it. Do I think it's a good idea right away? No, I do not. Tyler Lockett, Seattle Seahawks wide receiver, got paid today. $62 million over the next 4 years, I want to say. Could be wrong, but most importantly, I think 32 of it or some change like that is guaranteed. Good for him, and most importantly, good for Seattle. Tyler Lockett's a top 10 wide receiver in my mind in the NFL. Yeah, top 10. I like him a lot. Last but not least, Thatcher Demko is staying in Vancouver for the next 5 years. Vancouver signing him to 5 years at $5 million per. This is great. Thatcher Demko could very well be... No, he's not winning the Vezina. That's going to Vazzy. But he's a candidate. He's been playing unbelievable. He's the only reason Vancouver still finds himself in the race. Great deal. Said bye to Markstrom. Thatcher Demko staying in Vancouver with the Canucks. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate all the love and support. My name's Adam Groom. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.